Welcome to Upticks. I'm Jake Falcon, the founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors and your host of Upticks. Today is our 74th episode, The Secure Act and Your IRA. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
It's been a few weeks since we've had you on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back.
What have you been up to?
Well, I've been doing a lot of studying lately. And
have been doing a lot of studying.
I recently obtained a new designation, which is the Certified Tax Specialist.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited about it.
So just in full disclosure, it doesn't mean that Falcon Wealth Advisors is getting into the tax filing business, but we definitely are getting more into the tax planning. So maybe you can talk a little bit to what that means.
Certainly. Like Jake said, this is not something that we're going to be filing taxes by any means, nor are we claiming to be tax experts per se, but really what this is, the purpose of me going out to get this designation was just to augment our tax planning. What we want to do is be able to take a deeper dive into everyone's taxes and be able to look at their tax return and be able to figure out things that we can do within their financial plan that other advisors aren't looking at, that we can help add value.
Absolutely. So our big theme for the fourth quarter of 2019 was charitable donations and making sure that you're lowering your taxes. Our new theme for Q1 of 2020 is going to be the Roth IRA conversions.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll be definitely pushing out content. I'm sure we'll do some shows on it. But for today's topic, we wanted to talk about the Secure Act. So kind of parlaying that from Roth IRAs into IRAs. The Secure Act is a very new piece of legislation that's just been passed, and it's impacted our clients, a lot of our clients, because most of our clients have an IRA. And so if you have an IRA, this show is very important because you may or may not be impacted by this new piece of legislation. So there's three areas that we wanted to talk about. So first off, I want to talk about something that's referred to as an RMD, or a required minimum distribution. So Matt, why don't you talk about what that used to mean and what that means now today?
Sure. So a required minimum distribution is also referred to as an RMD, just like Jake was saying. And so what that means is basically you've accumulated funds into your IRA or maybe into your 401k that's been rolled over into an IRA, right? And so the government essentially has allowed you to grow those funds tax deferred. Well, essentially what they're saying is it's time to pay up a little bit to Uncle Sam. They want their fair share of that growth, right?
Right.
And so the IRS looks at that and they say, based on the life expectation numbers, they're going to go ahead and implement a rule in which you have to begin to pay out a certain percent of your account every year. Right. So the old rule before the Secure Act was age 70 and a half. Most people may know that. However, it's been changed.
Let me interject real quick, because isn't that weird? Do you ever celebrate your half birthday?
You know, I know some people that are a little crazy about that, but I certainly don't.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. I agree.
So it's complicated for our clients that most of them never knew when they turned 70 and a half, but this law or this rule would require them to start pulling from their IRAs upon turning that age. And so what's the new rule then?
Yeah, and so like I said, that is a little bit weird, but it was based on life expectancy numbers. And so the new age that it's based on is age 72. So that's a lot easier for everyone to remember, right?
Right. Yeah, nice round number there, 72. So if it's the year 2020 and what if you're already 70 and a half, right? So let's say that you turned 70 and a half in 2019. Does that mean you can now stop taking your required minimum distribution, or do you continue?
It's a great question. And so really this rule is a grandfathering rule, if you will. So if you turn 70 and a half in the year 2019, you still need to pay your RMD for 2019, and then you'll continue to pay that. So you were grandfathered in underneath the old rules.
So it's anyone that has not turned 70 and a half as of 2019?
Yes, correct.
So from 2020 on, if you're not 70 and a half, the new required minimum distribution age will be 72 years old.
You got it. Yeah.
And for our clients, we calculate all that for them, and they don't need to worry about keeping track of all of this. That's part of the services that we provide. But it is a good thing. So again, if you're not pulling from your IRA and you don't need to, or you certainly don't need to pull as much as required, you get to delay that a couple of years, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Also, I wanted to point out another interesting fact is that if you also donate from a charity as part of this required minimum distribution, it's still not taxable up to, isn't there a certain threshold?
So it's $100,000, and now with the Secure Act, that's being augmented, or it's being changed a little bit. Based on certain rules, you may not be able to donate up to $100,000, and we can get into the details with you if that's something that you're looking into. But you're right, you can still make those distributions directly from an IRA if you're of age to a qualified charity, just like we've been writing about and talking about on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So on to our second topic. For individuals working past age 70 and a half, more and more people are working longer. They now qualify to contribute to an IRA, which before they couldn't do so. Right? And that's that's pretty cut and dry there. But is there any nuances there that you wanted to talk about?
Well, just one thing that's interesting is it now is in line with the 401k rules as well as the Roth IRA. So before,
makes sense.
The IRA was the only one that people couldn't contribute to. It was its own separate island, if you will. But now they're all congruent and the same rules, which is nice.
Fantastic. And then our third topic regarding the Secure Act and your IRA would be beneficiary designations, or if you inherit an IRA. Now, these have changed rather dramatically and not always for the better. So why don't you talk about what that means, Matt?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the biggest parts of the Secure Act that was rolled out. And so beforehand, what would happen was if someone were to pass away and they had an IRA, what they could do is they could leave that to a beneficiary. And beforehand in the rules, that beneficiary could go ahead and distribute that, a required amount, as long as they lived. So over the course of their lifetime. And that's referred to as what we call a stretch IRA. It's stretching it out over their lifetime. However, with the Secure Act, they've changed that. They're only allowing a maximum of 10 years before that beneficiary has to essentially liquidate the IRA and pay the taxes and get the funds out of the IRA.
Right, so it's a big deal. So if you're 50 years old and you inherit an IRA from a parent or somebody, you have 10 years before you have to pay basically taxes on that entire amount.
Yep.
But there are certain stipulations that apply that you don't need to do this. And maybe you can go over the types of beneficiaries that don't need to exhaust account within 10 years.
Sure, that's correct. So people who are spouses will be separate. People who are considered handicapped by the IRS, and you have to meet certain regulations by that. Also, let's see here. We also have people who are chronically ill, and that's also going to have to be, the IRS has to deem you chronically ill. Now, the other one that's interesting to know is children or minors. So they don't have to liquidate the account within 10 years, but once they reach the age of majority, so at 18, at that point, then they have 10 years.
So by 28, basically.
Exactly. Yep. So there's a few different stipulations and things that are different, but for the most part, people will have to deplete the account within 10 years and pay the taxes on the IRA.
Right. So this is very important that you work with your estate planning attorney. Certainly us at Falcon Wealth Advisors, while we're not attorneys, we can help go over some of these scenarios. We can actually probably model out some planning ideas and just make sure that you've got a good, solid estate plan and that you're transferring your assets in the manner that you deem appropriate and you ultimately get to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. So these are three big takeaways. One, if you're getting close to that required minimum distribution, looks like you can delay it a couple of years, which is nice. Hopefully that would help your account. If you're still working and you're in your 70s, you can now contribute to an IRA, which you couldn't before. And then the third thing is on these beneficiaries, we want to make sure that you've got it set up in the proper way to make sure that you're not unnecessarily liquidating an account if there's something else you can do beneficiary-wise.
Yeah, and just like Jake and I were talking about the other day, this really is where your advisor is going to add value in the planning, and we're staying up to date on this legislation change and all the different stipulations that come with it. And so that's where we're helping add value for everyone, which is great.
I absolutely agree. I mean, not that our industry, I've never considered it cookie cutter where you can just plug people in and do things the same. Now, even more so, it's very important that you work with somebody that's fiduciary minded first and foremost, that has this independent mindset. They're acting in your best interest and they're aware of these new rules. And that's part of the reason that I personally am a chartered retirement planning counselor. That's where my niche is. That's what I've really focused on for my majority of my career. And Matt, you've got the certified tax specialist. So again, while we're not giving tax advice, we're definitely doing tax planning for our clients. And again, this is a lot of information that we just covered here in a short amount of time. The best thing to do is just pick up the phone and give us a call, set up a meeting. We're happy to go over these new changes and make sure that your situation's set up what's most important for you and your family.
Yeah, definitely.
So welcome to 2020, Matt. By the time this is rolling, this will be the year 2020.
All right.
Happy New Year, everybody. Again, we're going to be pushing out more content. You can find us out there on all the social media platforms. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Certainly, if you're watching this on YouTube, we appreciate a thumbs up or a subscribe. And if you're listening on iTunes or your favorite podcast, a positive comment would also be appreciated. Matt, how do you prefer to be reached out to?
You can just reach me by my email, which is matt@falconwealthadvisors.com.
Yep, and mine's Jake at falconwealthadvisors.com. And thanks again for tuning in, and we hope you all have a great week.